Even in the midst of turmoil and BS, I always had this rudimentary understanding of who I was as a person, and I didn't. For the first time in my life, I had no idea who I was.
I'm not gonna get justice, and maybe that's too far set in advance, but I know how this goes.
I never thought a woman could take advantage of me. I never thought I could be powerless.
We are socialized by rape culture.
I just need to make it to this trial date because then he will go to prison and everything will be fine.
It still gives me nightmares. It still makes me viscerally sick.
You could just see how strong this woman was.
I cannot believe this still happens in 2026.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional now.
What was that?
That's not how it works.
I wouldn't wish what happened to me on my worst enemy.
I don't know a single person that got justice that quick. I don't know a single person who's been in a courtroom that quick.
I'm not gonna tell my parents, 'cause I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. So I'm just gonna live with this.
It's why nobody on that fuck-ass list is in prison, including our damn president.
Hi, my name is McLean, and I'm a survivor. When we grow up, our ideas of the world are shaped, of course, by our family and our school, but there's a huge chunk of it that's also determined by what we consume in the media. We only describe something as sexual assault if it is extremely violent by someone you don't know, pinning you down, tying you up, gagging your mouth, and penetrating you. But that's not the full story. I remember growing up and being assaulted by so many different people and not calling that assault, not understanding, not validating it for myself because I knew this person, because I wasn't gagged and tied up, because I wasn't kicking and screaming, because I willingly walked into their apartment. And it's time that we talk about it. I've done some self-destructive things in this anger and the feelings that I have about what I've experienced. I needed something to do with that. I was writing a play. It was pretty personal. So basically recreating a series of abusive relationships that I had been in. I was never fully depicting the assault. You wouldn't be traumatized in that way as a viewer. There was going to be no visuals. It would be completely dark. As an audience member, you would only hear what was happening. It was a choice on my part because, first of all, I think seeing can be really re-traumatizing. I think the thing with sound is you can't close your eyes. You have to experience it. So I was kind of meeting in the middle for my audiences between people who had gone through it that I didn't want to re-traumatize, but also maybe people who had done certain things that didn't consider it assault. The first partner that I had read my script, he went through it and he made edits. And he was like, it's really sad that you went through that stuff. This needs to stay in the drafts. I don't think anyone should ever see this. He also turned out to be an abusive partner. But at the same time, that really stuck with me. I was sort of involved with someone else after that, even a year after I let him read the script. And the same thing happened. He was like, this was really therapeutic for you, and I'm so glad you did this, but no one should ever see this. I just don't know why you would want all of this out there. I don't know why you would want people to know this about you. You don't look the greatest. But I was really conflicted. And it wasn't until earlier this year that I thought about that script again. And also I was thinking about watching things that depict sexual assault. I will rewatch movies like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Promising Young Woman, TV shows like Baby Reindeer over and over and over again. There's so much shame that you just feel dirty in general, being a survivor. I would always feel really dirty, rewatching stuff and feeling catharsis by watching someone else suffer. What are all these thoughts that I'm having, these feelings about the script that I wrote and my feelings about rewatching media? What happens to survivors when they watch these stories? How does it affect us in our day-to-day lives? What's not being shown? I am more than my story, but my story is more than me. I can't just use my own experience to really delve into this and figure out what's happening and how can we turn something so horrible into something healing. I don't know what the rest of this journey is going to look like. Documenting the process of me interviewing these survivors and coming to terms with these questions that I'm asking. I don't know what I'm going to learn by the end of this. I'm excited to take this journey.
Like most kids, I'm 24, so Disney Channel was really prevalent.
The first thing that comes to my mind is Kung Fu Panda.
I was definitely like a PBS Kids kid.
Oh my God, what didn't I grow up watching? So if you could tell by the show, it was made in the 90s.
I grew up in a very strong Christian household. Rated R movies were not allowed to be watched, but Criminal Minds was totally okay because it was mainly like violence, but not sex. They didn't want me watching people having premarital sex.
If any nudity ever happened, my mom would like freak out and like turn off the TV and be like, close your eyes.
My mom was actually battling cancer. Because of that, she would work third shift. When she would be gone from work, we would be downstairs just kind of like digging through her VHS tapes.
You know, when I was like 12, it was like Divergent. I was like, it's me. I'm Divergent, neurodivergent, that is.
I am Katherine Gilyard. I am from Albany, Georgia, but I've been in DC for the past 13 years or so.
I'm a clinical psychologist and I've been doing this since 2004. I initially started with eating disorders because I struggled myself and I just figured I understand eating disorders, I know the mindset, I know the struggle, I know the torture. But very, very quickly I learned that I could really only take clients so far because I had to figure out how to help clients with the underlying trauma that was creating the eating disorder.
Watching a lot of what would be considered like black cinema. So, you know, your Jason's Lyrics, Set It Off, Low Down Dirty Shame, Spike Lee joints.
I am a director, pivoted from acting, and I am also a professor at the University of Southern California. My niche is women-led dramas or kind of prestige dark comedies grounded in conversations around social justice, identity, and existing on the margins.
My platform is called What They Don't Say. It's a podcast, social media space, merchandise, as well as educational workshops for college-age students. The whole primary focus is making sexual assault a more approachable conversation, but it didn't start there.
I hate men. Fuck them all. They are all bad. That is rhetoric that I simply do not agree with. And I'm saying that as somebody who has been hurt, cheated on, and raped by men. And I do understand where this rhetoric comes from. But here is my question. Do we really think that by telling all men that they suck, we are going to get better men? Because statistically, boys who grew up without fathers are far more likely to end up incarcerated and far less likely to graduate college. To me, that signals something. Men and boys need guidance, not just condemnation. So last week, my friend Ray and I walked into a fraternity and facilitated a workshop for new members, all about consent, the freeze and fawn trauma responses, and bystander intervention. And do you want to know what the overwhelming response was? Gratitude. Gratitude because somebody was willing to have a real conversation without assuming the worst of them. It was also abundantly clear that these were conversations they wish they had had earlier. And to be 100% clear, I am not excusing the harm being caused. I'm saying that telling an entire gender that they are all bad does not create change, because telling someone they are the problem doesn't teach them how to be anything else. If we actually want things to change, we have to be willing to talk to men like they are capable of being better. So just for the record, I don't hate all men, but I do believe that we all deserve a safer and better world, and men deserve to be believed to be capable of helping build it.
My freshman year of college, I was assaulted by a close family friend, and I spent a little over 2 years leading up to a trial. And during those 2 years, I found myself perpetually looking for like information and conversation around sexual assault, like what was normal, what was natural. Like, is it weird that I'm crying while I'm hooking up with somebody new? Is it normal that I'm thinking about it this much? And I just found myself like literally Googling like that exact question.
Spring Awakening made me feel very, very seen. Probably the first time I consumed a piece of media like that where I was like, oh wow, like there's a word for that.
I think the media needs to show that it's not like you're assaulted and then you find the right person and suddenly you're cured. It's like this expectation when that happens. They're like, okay, like you'll just be cured, just keep going to therapy and like eventually you'll want to have sex with me. And then there's this immense pressure. It's not like a one day you wake up and it's okay. It's you might take 5 steps forward and then 10 steps back the next day.
Came up to go to school in Howard and stayed and continued to work as a journalist, as a victims advocate and victims intake counselor. I primarily cover public health, health equity, disability, race, culture. Today marks 25 years of sexual assault prevention and awareness during the month of April. So for the next 25 days, I'm asking 25 questions, and by the end of it, if I do my job correctly, you'll be able to answer these no problem. And don't worry if you get it wrong or if you don't know the right answer, that's what I'm here for.
Did theater, musical theater in New York, and then I came out to Los Angeles to get my master's in acting at the University of Southern California. My 3rd year of graduate school, we were tasked to write a single location short film for an on-camera acting class. Right when the Me Too movement hit its apex in a lot of ways, I was really, really invested in the Larry Nassar trials. As a college sexual assault survivor, I felt so deeply connected to specifically these conversations around systems of belief and how we can often convince ourselves that things didn't happen that did, and questioning and other people questioning us.
A lot of resources that popped up were very sterile, just not approachable at all. There was nothing in the middle that felt like I could identify with or relate to. After trial wrapped up, my cousin and her and I were assaulted by the same person. We ultimately decided to start a podcast, and it originally was just going to be like her and I talking about our experience. And we realized that we are experts in our own experience, but we are not psychologists, we're not attorneys, but we can bring on the experts to fill that gap.
I'm in these situations where I'm with these men who claim that they're respectful of women and they are so upset that I've been abused in the past, and then they do the same thing.
Anytime, if it were like even in cartoon shows, there was like a character that was like being bullied and mistreated, I was like, why are they doing that to him? I'm like asking like real questions. Yes, it's a cartoon. I know this is Dragon Tales, but why are they treating Cassie like that? I don't like it. And that like stayed with me. How do they like paint them? Like, do they deserve to get bullied? Like who? Like what does it mean to deserve that? If it's like wrong, and like the things that always stuck with me, and then I always just like had in my mind were like, what are the rules around this?
I had been listening to this podcast on Michigan radio about the Nassar trials and about these systems of belief. And because for me, the question was like, how did this one person get away with so much? And he was a doctor for the USA national team for the gymnasts, but he had also worked at Michigan State. He'd worked all over university systems. He had subsequently been found guilty of sexually assaulting and abusing. At the time, it was, I think of the early trials, 47, 48 women. And since then, over the last 8-9 years, the number has gone up to over 400. It all kind of came down to these systems of belief, that the fact that these little girls weren't believed by their parents, and they would tell their parents, or their parents would be in the room. They wouldn't be believed because they would be seen as dramatic or as, creating these stories, or they block it out so much that when a lot of these women, when they entered into their 20s and 30s and they started having children of their own, they started having a lot of trauma around going to the doctor and relationships, and all these things started to come to the surface. And also a lot of these women thought no one would ever believe me if I came out and said this, which is such a chronic conversation point in this topic.
Specifically like Ilsa and her whole character arc. What I went through was not a one-for-one, but to hear her character talk about what happened to her in the way that she did, it was just kind of like a crazy experience to hear like The Dark I Know Well for the first time and be like, wow, like I didn't know we could talk about that.
But I think there are a lot of men who think that they're good men. I would never tie a woman up and rape her, but they don't understand that having sex with a woman who's too drunk to consent is assault. Do you know how many times I've heard people say like, oh, he's a great guy, he just did this one bad thing?
Grew up in Albany, Georgia, really small town. And my mom grew up in a Baptist church and First Pentecostal, very conservative, very, these are the rules, and like you dress a certain type of way. I remember some of the first comments I'd ever heard my mom say, like, what are y'all wearing? Okay, when you end up on the episode of Law and Order, don't say nothing. I was raped the first time when I was 6 years old. Those things were in my head, thinking about, well, like, what did I do wrong? Like, am I gonna get in trouble?
I think the porn industry has to have something to do with this. There's this like dehumanization of women that happens. On my way here to film this in the studio, I saw a piñata of a woman's body. Do you know how dehumanizing that is? I'm gonna whack this sexualized woman's body in a bikini. I'm gonna beat it until it cracks open and I get candy from it.
Before any of this ever happened, I was a figure skater for over 15 years. So at my core, I am an athlete. I trained at the Olympic Training Center. I wanted to go to the Olympics. That was like my dream. And now I would say I'm more of like a normal person. I like try to work out 5 days a week. I love coffee. I love spending time with my friends.
I pursued getting trained and then certified in EMDR. Then quickly found out that so much of the trauma that was coming in my door had to do with sexual assault.
The first time it ever truly stuck with me and like got a visceral reaction out of me was for Color Girls. I just remember it lasting for so long. That film came out not long after one of the first times I was assaulted as an adult. It played out very similar to my own assault, as being somebody that I knew, somebody that I had invited in, somebody that I had trusted. It was just very jarring. You've got this beautiful aria being played while this woman is getting assaulted by somebody that she knows. I didn't sleep for days after watching that. To this day, it still gives me nightmares. It still makes me viscerally sick.
And so I wrote this film for this class. It just kind of poured out of me, called Pizza Party, and it was a single location short. It's framed as this pizza party, and we don't know what this pizza party's for or who these women are. And eventually, over the course of the film, you learn that they are all going to take the stand the next day to face their assailant. One of the big questions that I think I was asking is, what is it like to raise good men and good humans in this world that don't do things like that? And so I wrote this film for class, and this teacher read it and was like, no, you can't make this in our class because it's too good to make in class. We can't do this. You know, you need extras and a budget and all this stuff. I raised $20,000 through basically every relationship that I had ever built, and I made this movie.
You would just be scrolling as a child. You would see like nudity, and it's so enamored. It's because you're taught as a Christian, you're taught as a young man that this is bad. That's what makes it good. So from a very young age, I kind of developed like a pornography addiction by just existing on the internet.
Specifically, queer representation of abusive relationships could have saved me from like so much of what I've been going through recently.
My practice has constantly just very organically evolved into this like sexual assault specialty. 2 years ago, I did a TikTok on just kind of educating viewers on sexual assault and what it looks like and what to expect as a survivor. Today, we're going to talk about a very sensitive subject when it comes to trauma and PTSD. When you've been assaulted or raped by someone that you know. And that has now gone viral. And from there, people on TikTok were reaching out to me, asking me questions if what they had been through was sexual assault.
The overall connotation and the way that sexual assault is depicted overtly, which is this idea that sexual assault is someone that you don't know and it happens to you in a back alley by a stranger, and which absolutely can happen. However, I would say that when it happened to me is very different.
My grandma told me to go take Mr. Pop, her neighbor, back his pitcher and his rake and come straight back to the house because it was about to rain. And I did not stop. She had like a pecan orchard, and I stopped and I was picking up pecans, and I was like lollygagging outside, just like running around, just being a kid. And I didn't go straight there. Like I broke the rules. I didn't listen. My mom always told me, like, don't go outside in just a shirt as I was growing up, like, you know, especially if you were around like boys. I had on like an oversized, like a white t-shirt, and I was like walking around barefoot and just had on like underwear under that. I was 6.
Obviously, for many people, sex is a beautiful thing, but for me, it's like this horrible, traumatic thing, and I can't even comprehend sex as like a positive experience. Like that doesn't compute with me. When I hear that someone has sex, like the first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss.
That kind of catapulted me into this new career path. I was getting a lot of response and momentum for this film. So it ended up going to 24, 25 different film festivals all over the country. It did really well. What I realized in that moment was that filmmaking was the place where I was able to have more agency over the stories that were told, the stories that I wanted to tell, and also could be an agent of change within the industry.
There's this stigma around just Black women that we're strong and we're just supposed to be able to take these things and move on with our lives. The way our trauma is handled is not at all handled with care in the way that our counterparts it is handled.
Growing up during the technology boom where the internet was happening and all this stuff was happening so fast. Like if you go on Pinterest today and you look up boobs, you're not gonna find boobs. It's gonna be like, oh, sorry, nothing's there. But back in the day, like, yeah, you just find shit. And like, no one knew because I was so tech savvy. My parents didn't know what I was doing. I think the first portrayals of like sexual assault, really just sex in general, was like an iPod Touch. Then sometimes you see shit that, like...
There is a song called Breathing Song, and it's by Samia. The whole song is about a sexual assault encounter that she had. And there's a line toward the end where she's telling her friend about it. And the whole song, she's like trying to rationalize what happened to her and be like, well, like it wasn't that bad. And like she's protecting her abuser. And it's a whole lot of stuff that like I just like get. And then there's a line at the end where her friend says, why would it matter what happened after you said no? And something just like clicked for me where I was like, yeah, like why would that matter? Like I spend so much of my time and energy like justifying things that have happened to me because it's easier to swallow if I'm in the wrong.
During the assault, like he mentioned what I was wearing, and it is just something that I thought about in my head for a long time. Like my mom's voice was also a part of that and how I processed it. What rules did I break? How did I get it wrong? Like, am I to blame for this?
And I only was hearing about it in incredibly like extra grotesque instances where somebody was getting like brutally raped and murdered. And like that was something on Criminal Minds where you'd have like a serial rapist who was planning out his targets, kidnapping them and then torturing them and raping them for multiple days.
Sometimes the way that it's depicted, even currently, is kind of dumb, and is wrong. However, it's like, I'd rather it be depicted than not depicted and not spoken of.
Is this sexual assault? Is that sexual assault? What if I said yes? What if I said no? What if I was drinking? All the things. So then I was thinking, I should write a book. I then had to kind of dig into my own sexual assault history and come to terms with that myself, because that was nicely buried away. And here we are.
Since Pizza Party, I've tend to include a lot of conversations around survivorship in many different forms, domestic violence, sexual assault. I had to create a separation between Tessa, the writer, and the written work and the experience. It's so important for you to remember that yes, this is you, and yes, these are our stories, but they're also for other people. Coming to that work with a spirit of generosity and nurturing of both the self and the people that are taking this work in.
Remember when TikTok was Musical.ly? I was scrolling on Musical.ly as a child. I had to be like, I don't know, maybe in 5th grade. I've never told anyone this ever. Scrolling, and I came across CP. And I was like, whoa. And no one ever taught me that that was possible, that like people were that evil. What was that?
This is like a very eerie thing for me, but on the day I was assaulted, like a couple hours before, I was spending time with some guy friends. And for some reason, we were talking about sexual assault, which is strange because like it really wasn't a conversation in my household. It wasn't a conversation in my education. And I was literally saying, like, I know it happens. I know it's common, but I don't understand like why or how it happens. Like, how can consent be lost and why is it so bad?
And they be talking about, oh, like something to the effect. I remember one of them, he was like, "You're my wife. What you mean? You never want to have sex. Like you always have a headache. And there's always an excuse." They'd be blaming them for some way that they weren't meeting a need or want. Women were submissive. Women owed, and that's real crazy because why it was always the women owe the men something. A mess. A mess. It was always like, this is a woman's role. This is her like place to support. Like she has to do this, and it was an obligation and something that they agreed to be in a relationship with you, so you owe them that.
I didn't tell anyone. I wasn't able to report it. I was just able to see this shit is happening. I'm not going to tell my parents. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to live with this.
When I was 18, I did this student film. My romantic co-lead was 27. We started hanging out one-on-one. He would invite me up to his apartment by myself. This one night, I go to his apartment and he's really flirty and we're dancing and it's really romantic. And then all of a sudden he takes my shoes off and he tries to take my dress off. And I was like, whoa.
Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It is a type of trauma therapy that helps clients process and reprocess their experiences and their traumas without getting re-traumatized. There doesn't have to be a lot of talking. That uses the front of our brain. Like what you and I are using right now is our frontal lobe. It's where we have our logic and our reason and our wisdom.
The series that recently came out called Baby Reindeer, Donnie ends up getting assaulted by his mentor. The way even that it was filmed, it feels very queasy. It feels like you yourself are in this drug-induced kind of haze. You always say out loud the things that you're gonna do if you're ever put in those situations, but when you're actually in them, you just kind of freeze. I cried. I remember crying because I remember I knew what that feeling was, because when I first got assaulted, I was drugged. It made me feel stuck, like how I was when that first happened to me.
Almost any assault scenes, like it's never complex or nuanced enough to actually reflect the reality of like trauma itself or the ripples around it. Like then why is it here? You just wanted this little clip in here, like this being used on like a Pornhub site or something, like to get some like what purpose is it serving?
When you're touring with a movie that you made about sexual assault, you get a lot of different, like, this is what the movie's about. And I got a lot of that. And I had a lot of particularly men not because they don't know, because I think so many men do know and understand the experience, but films I make tend to be very grounded in womanhood and our identity in that way, because that's what I know. Some people are going to really see it and some people aren't. The beauty is that people are searching for something in my work.
The Baby Reindeer series I thought was so powerful. When I see media, it's important to me that it really does show that it's that bad. I didn't understand it. I don't think the general public really sees and gets how bad sexual assault truly is. There's also like a wide range amongst that aftermath. And one of them, like I think is displayed so well in Baby Reindeer, is when he just starts sleeping with all these people. And it's like his apartment is this revolving door for strangers for him to sleep with. And people think, well, if you're assaulted, you shouldn't be sleeping with anybody. Like that part of your life should be ruined. But people don't realize that like hypersexuality can be such a big part of the aftermath.
Speaking about sexual assault, it's only through my personal experience. Because I've gone through it doesn't mean I can talk about all forms of sexual assault like as if they all happened to me.
Like, to put it bluntly, like if you are a horny teenage boy, you can find anything on TikTok and just be like, if you only like girls shaking ass, you will only get girls shaking ass, and no one is there to stop. And you're 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, finding these things and becoming addicted to these things on the most addictive app ever created. That really damages you, man.
Again, like back to Ilsa's character, her description of like telling her mom what was going on and then her mom being like, it's not that deep, like we all deal with it. It's so much easier to see it when it's somebody else. Hear someone else's mom be like, it's not that deep, get over it. And then to like be the third party and be like, wait, that's not right. I don't think it's right when it's happening to me either.
He kept asking me, I want to have sex with you. Can we have sex? Can we have sex? And I would say no. He would ask me all these questions. Why don't you want to have sex with me? He would scream. He would cry. He would bury his face in a pillow and have a temper tantrum like a child. I've never seen this before from him. He said, "You have so much power over me, you don't even know. You could make me do anything you want." I didn't see that age gap is wrong. I didn't see what he was doing was wrong, because I'd seen stuff like that in movies that was romantic. I rooted for Arya and Ezra. I wanted them to be endgame, and they were. They got married. A high school English teacher and his 16-year-old student. And he didn't see anything wrong with it because media told him that it was okay.
And I was covering, what year was this? Maybe 2017, 2018. Somebody walked into the newsroom and shot it up, and a lot of people were killed. People were in the newsroom seeing, their coworkers get killed. So around the country, people were talking about how reporters, a lot of times, like, we're first responders, or we're on the scene, and we were talking about the trauma that journalists experience and how that is a trauma. The way our brains process what we see is like we're experiencing ourselves. You become like this secondary survivor. That's how your brain like draws empathy, and that's why you can have like nightmares after you see something, or even experience like PTSD after just seeing something.
I was very lucky because I went to therapy specifically for my sexual assault. My therapist would always talk about it like trauma reminders. I feel like I'm almost blacking it out, almost depicted in TV and in media, where I'm like, yeah, that's very similar to what happened to me.
My manager called me once and he was like, "We've really been getting great responses from Pizza Party, so I've been sending it a lot, like, out to people." And this is a movie I made 6 years ago. People have been really responding because it's like my voice. It's like, it's one of those things. It becomes this kind of cliche, like, here's the girl that made this sexual assault movie, and now that's like the identity that these big networks want to see, is like, she made the sexual assault movie, we've got to watch that one.
When there's trauma that has not been processed, it gets stored in the back of the brain, in the amygdala. That's where we have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We cannot access the amygdala by just talking. So we have to create that eye movement, which is what happens in EMDR. There's a bilateral stimulation of the eyes going back and forth. And that unlocks the amygdala, where the trauma is stuck, brings it to the front of the brain, where you can then make sense of it.
I'm definitely capable of having almost like an obsessiveness of wanting to like consume media and consume things that can explain what happened and what I'm feeling now, and things to connect with. And I definitely felt that like in that 2-year window after my assault. Like, if I did find a legal paper that talked about, potential outcomes around sexual assault cases, I would like sit there and read 70 pages of it, not do my homework, not study for my exam, not work out, not eat, not go to the bathroom.
Because you're always online looking at all this stuff, you just think women are this. And it's like, well, yeah, if you are taught that, then that's the only thing you're seeing. That makes sense.
Again, I think I would have to circle back to Baby Reindeer. Not necessarily feeling like you're in danger, because again, you're there with somebody that you trust, and then like feeling the floor drop out from under you when you realize that person is actually not safe. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly how that feels. And the shame that I felt, all of that shame translates into doing self-destructive shit. And I'm like, I feel you.
There was a time where there's a gallery made, actually, of all the clothes that survivors wore when they went through sexual assault. It has clothing of baby's clothing up on the wall. And I saw my exact outfit that I was wearing in that gallery. That freaks me out more than anything I've ever seen in a TV show or in a movie, because that's not real. What I saw was real, like, and completely accurate. A separate person in this world had the exact same outfit that I wore when I was raped. There's always that discussion of, oh, what were you wearing? What were you wearing? And so you think that because of that, what you're wearing is like only to happen to you within that outfit. When I saw this gallery and I saw exactly what I was wearing, I was like, is that mine? That set me down like a panic attack that I haven't had in years. I was heaving, I was crying, I was sobbing and choking on my own tears, seeing my clothes. And so I reached out to the person who did the exhibition, only to find out it wasn't my clothes.
At the end of the night, for hours, I'd been locked in this man's apartment. I was terrified. I was sick. He kept asking me, well, why not? Why not? Why don't you want to have sex with me? Why don't you want to have sex with me? Over and over and over again. I told him, I was like, well, I've been taken advantage of before. I've been assaulted. He got really weird and he was like, oh. well, that sucks. You know, I dated a girl like that once, and she never wanted to have sex with me, and it was awful. She was awful. She would never sleep with me because she had PTSD, and, you know, I had to suffer for someone else's mistakes. People don't understand. We don't see the aftermath of being assaulted, of having nightmares, of never being able to have sex with people. I can't do it. It's so traumatic for me.
A lot of television execs in these like 30-minute Zoom calls be like, yeah, I'm a survivor. And that really mattered to me. I had one guy who was like, I do like superhero shit, but I really wanted to meet with you because I have 2 daughters. And I watched this, and there's a little girl in the film, and there's this whole kind of magic realist element of these women kind of transforming into the age that they were when this thing happened to them. And he was like, it was so hard to watch. It was so painful to watch. And it made me want to squeeze my daughters, and it made me want to fight to be a better father to my daughters. We shouldn't have to have the lived experience in order to have that human empathy. But when somebody does, especially men, communicate to me like, this has taught me something about being a father to young women, that is so meaningful to me.
I make a conscious effort not to watch a lot of Black pain media, especially like around like slavery. Of the ones I have seen, pick one, and it's most definitely going to be a scene in there of one of the enslaved people, particularly Black women, being assaulted. I am not enslaved, but the feeling, the after, how life just like goes on, and so much like life is just like forced to go on. Like, you know, you're already in the middle of like work, you being beat, you know, whipped and all the things. Come and let me rape you. And then you go right back out there. And I want every bag of cotton still. When you've experienced assault, and then that trauma happens, you're like, oh, okay, and we gotta go hang out with friends after this. I gotta go to sleep right next to you. I gotta wake up and see your face, or live in the same house with you if they're a family member, or go see you at an event. Every time I see it, or I've seen it, that I'm just like, yeah.
On my content, on like social media and podcasts and stuff, I don't put content warnings. I don't put trigger warnings. I have like on very few posts put them there. I've gotten comments of people asking me to put them there, and I go back and forth. Earlier on in healing, I would get really mad when my mom would show me a movie where people died, because I'd be like, I'm so fragile right now. I can't handle anything sad happening. But at the same time, I kind of think it's important for the world, like outside of sexual assault survivors, to see that content as it is. Like for us survivors, like we went through the world, not like we didn't have a content advisory before this happened to us.
It made me think of this movie called The Accused, and that's back in 1988. So I'm dating myself a little bit. It was Jodie Foster was the lead, and she gets gang raped in a bar. And as a 20-year-old watching this movie and seeing it unfold, I was floored. I mean, I was just amazed at the whole process, from what she went through to her going to an attorney and trying to, her going to the authorities and reporting it and using an attorney, and just the justice system and how that was used, and then how she tells her story on the stand. I think there has been a lot of evolution, like with the Me Too movement and things like that, but there's still a lot of things that happened in 1988 that has not evolved, like blaming the victim.
Did you have anything to drink before you went to the mill? Or smoke anything?
Oh, half a joint, a couple beers, nothing heavy.
And while you were there?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't falling down drunk or anything.
How were you dressed?
What's that supposed to mean?
It means were you dressed provocatively? Showing a lot of cleavage, see-through blouse?
No, 6th grade, I think. That's when like the first nudes were being like passed around the school. The social media aspect, or the media, just like it's really easy just to feed it to you, and then it's like, oh, you want this in real life now? Okay, we'll go get it. Because it is just like, that's what you see, because you're trained to see that. Like when you open your phone, all you look at are ass, boobs, or whatever, and then when you go out in the real world, why would you change? Because that's what you're trained to do.
I typically do better with like illusions or like metaphor. That's such a nice way of doing that, so I understand what's going on, but I don't have to like relive stuff.
I love fairy tales and these rom-coms. I've always wanted romance. I've always wanted partnership. Because of what has happened to me, I can't have sex. Like I can't do this like major part of that. It has made me feel so defective.
And then there are people that do it for shock value. I'm looking at you, Tarantino. I'm tired. Okay? We're all fucking tired. And I think that's cheap. I think it's obnoxious, and I think it's really detrimental to the people viewing it. An example of that is the assault at the end of Megan is Missing. There was no reason for a child being assaulted to be depicted for as long as it did. That scene went on for 7 GD minutes. Why? Why? Especially when those depictions are happening to minors.
Recently, I watched The Gentleman, and like the movie is not about sexual assault at all. I don't need to explain the premise of the movie, but like there's drugs involved. It's like weed. It's set back in the day. The husband of the wife, he's the one who's like growing weed, essentially. Bad guys are coming. Bad guy goes to his wife's office, and he's like trying to kill her, and basically he's like unsuccessful at it because she's an absolute badass, and eventually he like pins her down to the table, pulls his pants down, and is about to rape her. That was like a total unexpected moment, and I was like, whoa, like something about seeing rape in like this context was very much like I wasn't expecting it. It felt even more powerful maybe than had it been something that I knew was coming.
In my last apartment, my landlord, very irresponsible. Like the fob and security stuff, the doors aren't working down in the entrances to the building. My landlord was like, hey, people are getting into this building. This guy, like he starts stalking me, threatened my life, come to my apartment naked, like try to force himself on me several times. And I'm like, this man is trying to get in here, and he has said he will kill me. And I'm afraid that he's going to kill me, or worse. And that worse is me being raped. Because I was like, I've lived through that, and I know exactly what that feels like. Like, you want me to live through it again? Please. Life just keeps going on. You experience this bout, this happening of sexual violence, and it rocks your world. It's devastating, extremely dysregulating. It's like, rent still due. Got to go pick up the kids. Got to go keep going on with life.
Social media is probably the most honest about how it is portrayed and how it is talked about. We are so desensitized in our society. I'm watching a current series on Netflix right now, Vladimir. When I was watching it, and there's a lot of grooming, so there's a whole grooming piece of this show. But when you look up the description, there's nothing about grooming in the description. If I was someone who had a grooming trauma, and I sit down to go watch this sweet little show, it's like a dark comedy kind of thing, I would have a very hard time and be very triggered.
You know, they even talk about a woman's vagina and sexuality. Oh, it's a flower. And it's a flower that's been tainted because she has been, unpurified by the touch of a man. Like, there's been shitty, without sexual assault, shitty depictions of a woman's sexuality. And also, I think it depends survivor to survivor. Like, there's some that, like, see a metaphor like that, and they're like, oh, yeah, that represents exactly what happened to me exactly. And there's other survivors that will see the same thing and be like, what the heck is that?
Pizza Party, the foundation of it is about collective courage. And I think it would have taken things away if we had seen anything, because it was really about it wasn't about him, it was about these women. And I really, really love when movies, like I saw Sorry Baby this year, and I was weeping watching this movie, because to me what was so special about that movie, or I May Destroy You by Michaela Cole, those are two representations I think of sexual assault, where I think with Michaela Cole's work you kind of see it a little bit, but you don't really know. But what I love about that work is that it's about the fantasy of what happens next, and how that event or events impacts the person. And that is always what I'm most interested in, is the reverberations of the thing.
Guys see the thing on the app, and then they go out, and then they want just as easy as it is on here. So it just makes it easier for when you have a few drinks when you're at a party to accidentally bump into a girl this way, to be like, oh my gosh, it's a real, it's so dumb, it's a real ass. I'm the only boy in my family. So it's like my dad, my mom, and my 2 sisters, and I'm the middle child. So I had to learn from a woman, and I had to help teach. I think I'm very blessed to be in the spot I am, to understand, women are just, they're cool too.
Do you know how great it would feel for me to see a story about a couple who are romantic with each other and don't have sex? To see that you can be in a romantic relationship with someone and struggle with PTSD and struggle with being unable to have sex because of trauma. But there's always this expectation. Like, I've said this to so many partners. Like, I tell them, like, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ and I can't do this because of, ABC. They're always like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I would never do that. A couple weeks, sometimes even a matter of days later, they'll try to have sex with me.
There is, I believe, like a right way to talk to sexual assault survivors, saying things like, I believe you, thank you for telling me that, like, I'm here with you. All of those things, and like saying that in a particular way, like there is a right way to do it. I struggle when media acts like that is the only way that we can talk to sexual assault survivors or victims, that it like has to be in this quiet, calm, like sad tone. There was times where I was like crying and laughing at the same time, because I'm like, how on earth does my rapist have a penis that big? Like, he should not have that. Like, that's not fair. Like, give that to somebody who is like using it properly. And like, when I was sitting in the courtroom, where I like found myself laughing because it was like the only way that I could like get through it.
We are so desensitized to these types of things just showing up on TV, and there's no warning, there's no disclaimers, even in the description. If I was someone who wanted to like make sure, okay, I have a lot of sexual trauma in my past, I want to sit down, I don't want to watch something that's going to trigger me, let me read some descriptions. It wasn't even in the description. When I'm working with my clients, the number one thing as we're healing is, how do we create safety? How do we create safety? And if you're going to sit down and try to watch a show, I mean, it happens on reality TV all the time. I mean, it's just, and we're not getting those warnings ahead of time. On a commercial break or something, they may say, oh, if you are feeling suicidal, or if you've had sexual abuse, or you need to reach out for support, here's the number. But they don't tell you that ahead of time.
Whenever I've seen men be assaulted, the film, it slows down. For like cishet men, like they slow it down, like they show the impact. There's at least like some type of intention. Every time I've seen it, it'd be like him referencing. Y'all don't appear to be like as keen to show him being assaulted.
I may be in the minority here, but I think when it comes to something historical, like something that actually happened, I think it is important to show it, but to show care because it happened to an actual person.
I remember in Maleficent, there's the moment where I think she's like asleep or something, and they cut off her wings, and she like wakes up with it. And I really liked how that was handled, and it felt like it rang very true without being like a graphic depiction of sexual assault. It sort of felt like if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, that's okay.
Or this whole back alley, strangers you've never met, makes it a lot harder for people who've gone through sexual assault with someone that they know to even identify it as that. If there's a constant narrative in the way that sexual assault is depicted, that is going to make people who perhaps went through something that wasn't depicted in that matter think that they did not go through sexual assault. I would like more depiction where the person goes through confusion and doesn't even know that what they went through was sexual assault. Also, something that messes me up is how much of a depiction there is of people being wrongfully accused of sexual assault. Not saying that doesn't happen. Yes, I know that happens. However, if there's so much media about wrongfully accused people, which statistically is so small, you're giving more flame, like more gas to that fire. If that overshadows the stories of so much sexual assault experience that women and men have gone through, I'm gonna have a problem with that. Why do you want to depict people who have been wrongfully accused more than you want to depict people who have gone through sexual assault? What does that say about that director? What does that say about the people on that team?
You know, for me, I think of Sorry Baby. It was such a beautiful examination of how those things never leave us, how that trauma never leaves our bodies. and it's kind of time-lapsey and asynchronous, and it really, the ending of that film is she's looking at a baby, and it's this idea of like, I don't know if I can protect you. I don't know what this world's gonna look like for you. That trauma, I call it like having stones in your backpack. You keep climbing the mountain, but the stones kind of keep making it a little bit harder, a little bit more complicated. Michaela Cole does such a beautiful job of talking about the fantasy of fighting back. Season finale of that show, she imagines what it would be like if she beat the guy down, and then by the end of the episode you realize that never actually happened, and it's so painful.
I think it's called I Spit on Your Grave. Love everything about how the movie ended. I love everything about it, except for having to experience it. Those make me feel like I get justice or closure, even though it's fiction, even though it's not me, vicariously. I'm like, there's some part of me that I know, I'll never be able to get.
One of the styles of videos that I do is I'll like do my makeup, and then I have a voiceover where I'm like talking about sexual assault. And I do it because like survivors are human beings. Like we wake up, we go to work, we do our makeup, we put on clothes, we have friends, we drink alcohol, we do things. We're normal people. That's like a very approachable way for me to talk about it. And people say things in the comments like, well, this is not like how you should be talking about this. Like, because you're talking about it so casually, it makes me think that like this didn't actually happen to you. And they think that because we only show experiences of people like talking to victims in very sad, dark, quiet ways. And we don't showcase that like somebody could be at the hospital getting a rape kit and like later be making a joke how like the dye that they had to put on their genitals was blue and like they have a blue Smurf vagina. Like I have a friend who literally said that after she went to the hospital.
I'm not just a bitch. I'm a bitch with a backstory.
There's this idea that if you just find the right person, magically your PTSD will be cured. You'll be able to have sex with them and you won't be traumatized. That's just not how it works. At least it's not how it's been for me. And then I feel guilty because I'm like, I'm making them feel bad because this isn't magically fixing me.
90% of the time, if you are like actually portraying it and like letting me watch it, it's just re-traumatizing. You know, the musical Spring Awakening, I had the privilege to be a part of that musical. The director, she had like a sheet every scene was bulleted where this is the point of the scene. This is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're going to achieve that, and nothing more.
So I think that there are so many beautiful ways to talk about this thing that are so rooted in the feeling of the survivor versus the event itself. That's what I prefer to see. However, I'm working on a couple of projects right now, and one of them is a sexual assault revenge film, and you do see snippets of the event. That's been a really interesting thing that I've been exploring for the first time as a filmmaker. I think that there is a way to do it that is, again, about the feeling versus the indulgence of watching voyeuristically something really horrible happen to someone.
Huge fan of The Pit. They have a sexual assault survivor come into the emergency room and get examined. And they have a nurse called a SANE, and that stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. So this nurse has been specifically trained in sexual assault exams because the exam in and of itself is traumatic. You have a survivor already going through a rape or assault, they go to the hospital, and then they have to like get on a table and spread their legs. I mean, it's horrific, right? So they have these nurses now that are getting specifically trained. So they had this on the show. It was fabulous. I did a TikTok live the other day, and a gal was on there who said that she had just been sexually assaulted. She went to the hospital. The SANE and the medical assistant were amazing, but the main doctor completely blamed her, like, oh, well, you were drinking, or look what you were wearing. I mean, like, I cannot believe this still happens in 2026.
We have definitely done a really good job of showing what one specific type of sexual assault looks like and nothing else. I would love to see more representation of what it typically looks like on a day-to-day basis of like coercion and wearing down. And what tends to happen is we see a lot of people represented by like being taken off the street and then assaulted and then left there, which absolutely does happen. But I think we skip over a lot of victims of domestic violence.
Most people, what they know about assault, a lot of it comes from media, a lot of it. And I'm like, there's so many opportunities to educate. Even if like this is all they ever get or learn, just like a passing TikTok or like this one scene in a show like that could be what sticks with them. Even if they ask a question like, what were you wearing if you were drinking? If you're gonna put it in there, or if you're gonna show the scene, put that same intention, let people walk away from this experience like knowing something they didn't know before. Or like with enough like whatever to be able to question it or go look into something.
I don't like the oversaturation of random assaults in the media where it makes it seem like, oh, it's a stranger, it's somebody off the street, like the SVU of it all. Now that's not to say that, those things could not happen, but the statistics show that the majority of the time when these things happen, it is somebody that you know, and it's usually somebody that you trust. A lot of the times it's your coworker. It's sometimes a fucking family member. Sometimes it's, a close friend, even a spouse.
I think about that episode of Game of Thrones. We see Sansa Stark get raped on camera. And I remember watching it and just being like, they could have given us one shot, her eyes, and we would have understood. It was so triggering for me to watch that happen. I felt as a filmmaker and as an artist, there was a totally different way to execute it. Or there was a way to get the same feeling for the audience, which is important. It's a part of the story without the indulgence.
Sexual assault is incredibly complicated, not only to go through, but to decipher. I see sometimes in media that the person instantly knows it's sexual assault. That does not happen for a majority of survivors. Majority of survivors have a very hard time understanding what they went through, because very almost similar to a car crash, you go through almost like a confusion of what happened to you. We wonder so often why people come out about situations 10 years later. Why do they only talk about it now? Because the brain literally protects you and stops you from identifying what had happened.
Today, I'm going to talk about the process of going through sexual assault. I went through sexual assault when I was 17 years old, and I feel like every time I've ever seen sexual assault depicted, it's been wrong, or at least a lot different than what I imagined. And that actually led to part of the process of struggling to even understand that what I went through was sexual assault.
I was incredibly lucky that when I went through my sexual assault, within 48 hours, I was at a police station. That does not happen. You talk to 99.9% of victims or survivors, they're not going to the police, number one, because they don't understand what's happened. And they also are not going within that 72-hour time frame. Even with mine, people describe as like the perfect sexual assault because I went to police immediately after. I still showered, which means I rid myself of evidence that was on me physically because I didn't know the procedures. They always say to tell someone. They don't tell you how to make sure that you have the best case for when you go legally.
What happens with media is that we get desensitized, for better or for worse. That's just kind of a fact of what happens. There's nothing we can really do about it. We're seeing something over and over and over again. Baby Reindeer, he had two different kind of sexual situations going on, right? He had that relationship with what was like his manager or someone, and then he had the woman who was like obsessed with him. Both of those relationships were abusive towards him, especially for a man being asked, these kinds of questions when they're assaulted by a woman. It's much, much harder for men to be able to talk about it, come forward, and to say that they've been a victim.
You don't have like soul ties to whoever like you have sex with, especially not people who assault you. That's something, the first time I heard it in my 20s. Before that, I carried that with me the entire time. Like I felt like, Charlie Brown, the little dirty boy with a little cloud around him. I was just like, it's like rape victim. Just like dirty, filthy. Nobody wants me. And like, it's something
There's also that depiction of it's like the person screaming no the entire time, which again, can happen, but often coercion is a big part of it. Like, for example, I wasn't screaming no, but what I was saying was that I have to go. I cannot do this right now. My mom is downstairs. I have to leave. And like, I wasn't screaming it. Again, I was just saying it. I cannot do this and I don't want to do this.
I want people who are not survivors to engage with my content because that's like, those are the people who need it a lot of times even more than the survivor themselves. Like, I think it depends maybe on the post. I think when people are making content about sexual assault, it is typically for victims and survivors, even though we might want it to be for others to educate them.
This like notion that if you're not like kicking and punching and screaming and yelling no, then like you consented, which is not true. If you're not like absolutely fighting hand, tooth, and nail, then like you wanted it to happen or like you let it happen or it's like your fault for not stopping it. That's bullshit.
As filmmakers, it's our obligation to make movies for other people. We don't always have to take care of our audience. We do have to respect the efficacy of the story. And I don't know if any story is asking for super explicit, horrible depictions of sexual violence. I love when a film shows us what's going on in the victim survivor's experience versus what's going on between the two people.
If somebody watched Baby Reindeer, if you're able to like step in and understand what this person went through and have empathy for that. I don't know if people have to consume media in order to like have empathy for survivors, but I do think that it could be considered a more approachable way for somebody to gain empathy.
If someone is really new in their healing journey, then watching like The Accused would not be great, right? That would be really, really triggering. Even watching The Pit, right? We don't see the assault, but we just see the aftermath of her going to the emergency room. Just that alone, if someone is not far along in their healing, even that could be very triggering. If they are a little bit further along, then both those, the movie, the show, could be very validating.
I haven't been to court. Ever. I haven't been called up by the detective that was on the case. I haven't gotten an update on anything. It's been so long at this point. It's been 7 years. And you'll see this within crime shows. They're going to talk about sexual assault. It's like, oh yeah, all of this happened within 2 years. Huh? Sexual assault legally takes so much time to receive justice for. So there's this quickness that happens in depictions of and within media of sexual assault where I'm like, huh? I don't know a single person that got justice that quick. I don't know a single person who's been in a courtroom that quick. There's so much to sexual assault when it even comes to the rape kits that they use, right? And that there's a storage on how long they can keep those rape kits to the point that it's no longer even used in the court.
Victims with disabilities, particularly intellectual disabilities, they don't think about folks with disabilities as a whole. More than 3 people with intellectual disabilities they experience sexual violence, and the numbers are disproportionate there. They don't always like include them like as people, and on the other part of that is like they remove their ability to be perpetrators of sexual violence, which is also like contributes to like rape culture and why like people become victims of things and they don't even know. They just know that they're living with this thing. They feel that little dirt bubble around them and they just like, I feel it on me. If you're gonna include that as a storyline or something, treat them like a whole person.
I think a big part of like recovering for me has been feeling ownership of my own body. I never really felt like it belonged to me. There was like this disconnect between my head and everything that came under it. It felt like I was kind of numb from the neck down, and I've been discovering in my acting classes that like I'll have sensation throughout my body where I'm like, whoa, oh, can I please go back to 10 minutes ago when this didn't feel like mine?
I'd been watching this drama series about like a sexual assault, and this little girl, it was about a girl who was raped, and she was like 17 and thin and blonde and beautiful. I call it the after school special syndrome. Like, it was just so deeply dramatic, and it was so indulgent in that way. And the depictions of these they tend to be women, they tend to be white, they tend to be thin, they tend to be beautiful, or whatever systemized ideas of beauty we have as a society and a culture. Young, they tend to be weak, and they tend to have some big scene where this girl has to sit in a on a stand. For my experience and every single other person I know that has gone through something similar I've never had the opportunity to just stand in front of a group of people and go, and this is what happened to me. Nor do I think I would be able to.
I feel like some film heads are just fucking weirdos. It's a lot of men not understanding what they're doing. Why do we gotta go to this extent? Point the camera there at this time, always. It's because you're a guy. If you have a scene that involves sexual assault to a woman, maybe you should get a woman intimacy director.
They try to soften sexual assault when the perpetrator is a woman. I didn't start watching Bridgerton until like a month ago, but going back and looking at the discourse that a lot of people were having around season 1, that is assault, baby. I was like, he did not consent to shooting up her club. If this were the other way around, y'all would be losing your minds, especially with the optics of the Duke being played by a black character and Daphne being played by a white woman. I'm just like, we don't ever want to have those conversations about why this is wrong. What's another one? 50 Shades of Grey, where Christian Grey, the woman that got him into BDSM when he was 16, a child, they kind of play her like a soft villain. I'm like, she's a pedophile, babe.
I perpetually fought and still do fight to this day with the idea of like it wasn't that bad. I wasn't, chained to a bed and held there for days. A family friend assaulted me and it was in my home, and like it was a very unexpected experience, but it was like short and then it was done. It wasn't that bad, so maybe therefore maybe it didn't really happen at all. The knowledge I had going in from media, I definitely compared my own experience to it after. It was just the general idea that in order for my assault or rape to be considered bad, it should meet a certain threshold of violence. And what if mine doesn't reach that?
Yeah, sexual violence, rape culture, rape, gore, and horror movies. Throw another bucket of blood out there just for very what's the movie Sharknado, and how it's just here's the body, there's a flying shark, there's a hammerhead. That's how they treat it for shock value. It's like clickbait. They do it to get the people there, but not to get the people through it and what they actually do with that scene. To what end? To what end? Yes. To what end? What if the end's just about the means? What is the end goal here?
What's missed is the recovery of what someone goes through the day after, the week after, the month after, the year after. It is rough. It's almost like you see a victim and it's okay, they're going back to their life or their relationship and not understanding, well, if they were in a relationship, that's going to be hard to go back to the relationship. And just all the different layers of the aftermath of sexual assault that people have to deal with. I don't think that gets portrayed very well.
Survivors can be funny. We can be not likable. We can exist in bigger bodies. We can be older. We can be younger. We can be black, white, Latin American, right? Survivors can be men. Survivors can be queer. I had been really frustrated with the representations that I was seeing. And that's not to knock, or criticize anybody's bodies or anything, but it just what the images I was getting was weakness, vulnerability, smallness, youth. And I was like, that's not how it works. It is, unfortunately, for many people, but that's not what most of the stories I know and have seen and have lived have been.
Especially when that survivor is somebody who's marginalized. We are not believed. When Megan Thee Stallion got shot, there was this whole campaign about why it was okay that she got shot, because she had had a previous sexual relationship with him. So it's just oh, well, if you slept with him, then yeah, he probably should have shot you. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Some people see sexual assault as a fetish. Why are we depicting it just to depict it? Is it really necessary to see the main actress get violently raped if it's never brought up again? It doesn't have anything to do with their decision making. Did we have to see that? Did that really matter to the character? You're never going to bring it up again? You're never going to make that a part of who they are as a person? You just bring it up, have it done, and then that's it. Kind of sounds like a fetish to me. Kind of sounds like you wanted to see that actress or actor get sexually assaulted. And there's other times where I'm like, I could see that they cared about this subject. Some people didn't even realize they were sexually assaulted until they saw on a TV show or a movie. They're like, oh, wait, that's actually really not cool at all. That's wrong. That is sexual assault. Like, and you're like, ah.
It really depends on like, what is your goal? And if you don't have one, or you're just like, I don't know, looks cool, it's like, fuck you. Does that tie into the story?
It just feels very, very trauma porny. I think because we tend to only tell the story of the person being taken off the street, I have not been believed a lot of times because it didn't look like that for me. It's difficult to deal with because you understand why people don't believe you, but it doesn't change the fact that like it took a lot to get to the point where I could tell you something happened.
There are some days where I'm like, I was assaulted, ha ha ha, you know, like, it's funny, let's talk about it, you know? And then there are some days where I'm like so deeply in my own experience, I don't know which version of me I'm gonna be able to give the world. And that's actually part of the trauma of the thing, especially, you know, as things in my life change. Being in a relationship, right? I get into a fight with my partner and I'm like, this would have never happened if I hadn't have gone through this thing. And then I get really angry. I wouldn't be this defensive about X, Y, or Z, or I wouldn't have this issue if this thing, this awful, awful thing didn't happen to me.
The way that people have treated folks that came out back in like 2018 about Jeffrey Epstein. They paid them in dust and treated them like they were nothing. It's always like the victim is a liar until they can prove that they're telling the truth. What patriarchy does is it centers these things. It's the grounding for why these things are able to happen. It's why nobody on that fuck ass list is in prison, including our damn president.
When you have songs like I Kissed Her While She Was Asleep, or like I, slipped a Molly in a drink, you just drugged her. You still just bipping and bopping and singing and going, that's a charge. This is being played at Coachella. Like, this is a really popular song, like across the world, but nobody's like questioning that one little lyric. But there is a person who's going to hear that and experience like sexual assault. I chose to do this, so I kind of I'm the reason this happened, and like it directly like leads to victim blaming.
I'm a little bit nervous to talk about this, coping with sexual assault via self-harm. Like, there's still so much stigma about self-harm in the media and just like in the culture in general. Like, I think people always say like, oh, this person does it for attention. There's so many misconceptions about self-harm. It really is a coping mechanism.
I would love if the ethical responsibility was on companies with the money to create projects that talk about sexual assault. Is it our job as survivors and victims to educate everybody else? We're tired. Do we really have to take that on too? But at the same time, it feels like, well, if we don't do it, who is? Like, maybe somebody who has found a way to care about it because someone they care about was assaulted.
When I immediately went through it, it was really hard for me to see anything about sexual assault. And now I can see videos on my free page that talk about sexual assault. I'll see that trigger warning and be like, am I in the mental headspace for this? You have to question whether or not you're ready to receive that information. Even if you haven't gone through it, you're still allowed to not want to see it.
Whenever I start a process as a director, I bring everybody in. Crew needs to hear it, cast needs to hear it, tech needs to hear it, and I say, okay, no one in this room is less important than the work. Your individual safety, whether that's physical or emotional, spiritual, is more important than the thing we're making.
When it happened to me, the first thing I looked up was what counts as sexual assault. And the first thing that popped up was sexual assault helpline. Because that's like the number one question a lot of people ask. Is they're like, did this count? If you're having to ask that, yeah, it probably counted, right? That was like really hard for me. It was like, I was honestly blaming myself for what happened. I was at the cast party for Spring Awakening and my director was there. She's like 36, 37. I was the youngest one in the cast. I was 20 years old. She was there, she had a lot of drinks, and she was just like pursuing me the entire night. She was like pulling up her dress or whatever. She was like trying to touch my hands. I would like move to the next room. She would like go over there and like touch me again, and then I'd like go to the balcony to like play guitar, and she would come out there. Like I was literally dodging this woman all. And like I was sitting on the couch, person, and then she comes and just sits on me. I have no power. I can't get up. And if I have a reaction, that's not an invitation. So that experience was so strange because you're a guy and it's cool as a guy to have sex. Cause that's like something cool, I guess. Oh, you hit blah, blah, blah. Oh shit, bro. Like, and I never really got that. But like, still, like it's kind of embedded in you. And like, she's like the big boss and she's older than me and we're all drinking and I'm young and I'm just starting my career. And the fact that she took advantage of that was really like, I thought I was in the wrong this whole entire time. Because my thing has never been portrayed in media. It's the fact that she was older and knew better and I was confused and she was in a position of power that was wrong.
Something that always stands out to me is how they treat people who use substances. Like it's just, oh, you just signed up for it. Like it was just in the terms and conditions of you choosing to do whatever. I hate it.
They're in the entertainment business. Like they're there to make entertainment. They're not, in the mental health field having to create content that's necessarily sensitive. Would it be helpful to have better descriptions of what the content's going to be? Would it be nice to have disclaimers and maybe after shows where then things are discussed? Great, that would be nice, right? To have that sensitivity. But I don't think that's their responsibility and not necessarily their job.
No, it's never been portrayed in the media. Because if it was, I would have known about it and I would have watched out for it. But I never thought a woman could take advantage of me. I never thought I could be powerless. Because I'm a guy. I'm a good-looking, talented, straight guy who's white passing, really Asian and white. Like I have all the cheat codes. Everyone's telling me how privileged I am all the time. And then bam, I get sexually assaulted, something I never thought could happen. Kind of makes sense because guys don't want to talk about that. Guys don't want to be like feeling weak, or let alone make a piece of art about feeling weak in that way, like sexually, right? I couldn't just like push her off me because I didn't want to be aggressive, like an aggressive man.
I spent a whole lot of time comparing my different experiences to like when I saw a movie on TV and then I didn't see it there and I was like, okay, that's invalid, I'm overreacting. Like it wasn't that bad, or I can like justify whatever happened. There is not like one singular instance where something happened and then that was like it. This has been like a recurring thing throughout my life.
You need to speak on things that you're educated about. Statistically speaking, so many people have gone through it that even if that person hasn't directly gone through it, they probably know someone who has. Whether it's their mother, it's their brother, it's their sister, it's their dad, their friend, their partner. At the same time, I don't think that people who haven't been through sexual assault should be the forefront of the message of the way that sexual assault is depicted. I have a harder time with when directors are romanticizing sexual assault.
How they always treat cops and first responders as like heroes instead of the reality as people who can be sexually assaulted and experience sexual violence, but also as people who can perpetrate it.
I'm not gonna make a movie about black struggle. I'm not black, right? But I can make a movie about like, as a biracial white Asian guy, Kung Fu Panda, right? I actually want to make I should stop saying want to. I'm going to make a short film about that talks about my experience a little bit. If I wanted to show that on camera, I would probably just do like, she leads him to the bedroom, they close the door. That's it. You don't know anything else. We understand what happened. Honestly, sometimes it's the people that have gone through it, they're vicariously living that experience again and hurting to like cope. And I think that's dangerous too.
We can't be telling this story if we haven't lived it, because then it won't ring true. It's one of those things where it's like you have lived it or you haven't. And you can gather stories and you can interview people and you can like piece together an empathetic telling. They're just things that you can't describe.
if someone has epilepsy, you got to tell people that there are strobes, right? I see it the same as physical need accessibility. I think content warnings can get a little tricky too. They can get really explicit. So I like to say, like, this is a piece that deals with specific themes of sexual violence and assault. And if there's a minor involved, I'll write that too. It was hard with Pizza Party because we didn't have a content warning at the beginning of the film. The whole conceit of the film is that you find out that it's about sexual assault. It was part of the mystery of the film because the film never explicitly discusses any acts of sexual violence or assault and is really about like these women galvanizing. Do I basically ruin the story of the film, or do I, do that? And it's complicated, right?
We have to pay more attention to grooming type of dynamics between anyone in a position of power and someone not in that same position, right? So it doesn't have to be like a pedophile with a child per se. It could be a boss at work, and their secretary, or a doctor who's, having a relationship with someone, a subordinate on some level. I think those relationships are just desensitized. Like I said, it's just looked at as not that big of a deal. It's adults. What's the problem?
Did you ever see The Hunting Ground? It's used in a lot of like educational workshops. Jameis Winston, who is this football player, rapes a woman. The public love him, like absolutely love him. And when this woman came forward and said, hey, this guy assaulted me, even media, there's like news clips that are like tearing apart the woman who came forward. You have this football player that so many men look up to, and so many men so many men now who still look up to Jameis Winston have no idea that he has these allegations and that this woman was very much harmed by him.
Everyone consumes media. If the most accessible, most digestible forms of that have elements of rape culture that have been normalized, victim blaming starts as soon as kids can hear, and as soon as like we're born. We are socialized by rape culture. We are conditioned to hear these things and not bat an eye and not question it. You don't know that the dirty bubble is around you, but you feel it.
How many people are sexually assaulted in the U.S. every year? A, around 100,000, B, around 200,000, C, around 300,000, or 4, around 400,000.
Once when I was 6 years old, and then again when I was 19, when I was drugged not long after my 19th birthday. I wasn't necessarily drugged by somebody that I knew, but I was with somebody that I trusted, and it was her friend that did it to me. And I think it was because of that degree of separation, I was just like, this has got to be my fault somehow, because how did I let somebody that I don't know do this to me? But it wasn't until I got older that I realized, how could somebody that I trusted, somebody that was older than me, somebody that was supposedly looking out for me, didn't do that. And I had to place that blame where it belonged, and that was with the people that had done me wrong.
The resolution to sexual assault, it's not always legally. Sure isn't for me. But there's a lot of other formats that have felt redeeming in the sense, like therapy was really amazing for me. I have this tattoo over here that says survivor on the basis of what I went through, because during my process, I was referred to as a victim over and over and over. And I'm like, yes, well, technically I am a victim, I'm not negating that, but I am a survivor more so than I am a victim. And from there, with my platform, I started designing tattoos for other people by hand. The amount of people that have come up to me and been like, show me, like, I have a survivor tattoo. That's been really beautiful too, like to have this connection to other survivors. I'm not gonna get justice, and maybe that's too far said in advance, but I know how this goes. Most don't. So what can we make outside of that?
The first 5 hours were probably the most confusing after. I knew that something was off, again, I was a child, but I guess I didn't understand how big of a deal it is. I feel like very often as a woman, we go through experiences that are unideal, and we're kind of like, oh, well, that sucked, and then we move on. I also have ADHD. I think people forget how much sexual assault can work with those other mental issues. Something that helped me understand what had happened was me telling a guy friend, someone who I really trusted and loved. Not everyone has someone that they could talk to about what had happened to them. I think I was very lucky in that sense. It was his reaction and his reaction alone that made me realize what happened was wrong.
If I could incentivize anyone to talk about their sexual assault. I would say that talking about it has healed me a lot more than I expected. You know, I felt like I really made a difference, not only in my life, but in other people's lives when I talked about it. When I turned it into like an art form of tattoos, not only was that incredibly healing to me, I mean, I love my tattoo more than anything, but to have other people also get tattoos was more than I ever thought could happen from me talking about it.
I went from not even being able to really watch it on TV. I'll turn the song off, I'll close the book, I'll not finish it, whatever, because I blamed myself so much for like what happened to me when I was 6. Like that bubble, it wasn't even a cloud, it was a bubble. Like, it felt like it was constantly like suffocating me. To being able to like question it and ask questions and sit in attention and then process through it without running away from it was because of education. Hearing what victim blaming was, if I hadn't, probably still like be holding and carrying those things with me.
I saw The Materialists in theaters. That movie, spoiler alert, has like a huge sexual assault twist. I got no information about that. It wasn't explicit, but they did talk about the details of the event, and she described what happened. And I remember being like, I kind of wish I knew. I had the ability to be like, okay, I'm good, you know, but I could imagine it being really hard for somebody who isn't fully processed in that thing, because all of a sudden you're watching this like rom-com and then it becomes about a sexual assault. I wonder if there's a way tonally for us to offer a little bit more information to people without saying the thing, because I also understand like there is something about the discovery. There's also this element of like, did we earn it? Did the filmmaker earn it by talking about this thing authentically and not for shock value, not for indulgence, not for feeling? You know, did they earn it because they have something important to say about it?
Healing for me, it looks like letting go of what happened. Forgiving is really a hard thing, and it's a very misunderstood thing. We all know this scene. The villain and the hero, they're like fighting in a free fall down to the earth. You know what I mean? You know that scene? They're like punching and fighting each other, like they're both going to die because they're both going to slam into the concrete. He kicks the villain off and like his buddy comes and like swoops him up. That is forgiveness. Look, we're still both gonna die, but I'm going to release you and be free of you. And then get help, get swooped up. And it still like permeates my music, and it's really frustrating. Because sometimes you don't want to talk about that, but like, oh, what comes up today? Oh, just another bar about your director. For a year after that, I didn't audition for anything, I didn't do anything, I was just fucked up. And I was stuck in this like, it was supposed to be like this, it was supposed to be like this.
But like showcasing just the natural journey of trying to put your life back together after going through this, that doesn't end in somebody becoming like a speaker or a super public facing. If something could depict the relationship dynamics that change and like how the entire lens that you have on the world shifts and like working through that to get back to a place where you feel whole again.
I hadn't been to church in a couple of years. This day was packed in there, and there's a part of the ceremony or service where they ask for like anybody got testimony they want to share. And my grandmother stands up. She went to the same church. She was like, yeah, I just want to thank the Lord. My grandbaby was raped last week, and I just want to thank the Lord that she's okay because she could have been killed. So thank you, Jesus, and sat down. Whole church, people I'd grown up with, turn around and look at me because my grandma's an elder in the church and they know who her grandkids are. I'm like, and if I could drive and knew my way home, I would have, or run faster, I would have run. Pastor says, like, come to the middle of the sanctuary. All the women in the church stand up, get in line to come hug her and like pray for her. I'm like, ain't nobody asked me a damn thing. Can I touch you? He's like holding my hand on my shoulder. Yeah, and I was like, please stop touching me, please. The week before that, after the rape happened, we went to the hospital to start the exam. I was like, I don't want anybody else to touch me. Please stop touching me. People touch me. I don't like it. Before me were like 40 to 60 Black women of all ages. They were even some like little kids. They had been assaulted too. It happened to them that they never told anybody. The first woman, she was like, you know what? I'm so glad they caught him. I'm so glad you're safe. I never told anybody when it happened to me. I was like, Girl, I'm like, what? The next one came. The next one came. Like, only 15 people did not. And these are like Black women, all shades, ages, walks, like whatever. That moment was really radicalizing for me, but also like informative. And it like set me onto the work that I started to do.
Sort of what we were discussing earlier about like if you're not being kidnapped and if you're not kicking and fighting and screaming, then you're not like actually a victim. That really kept me quiet for a very long time. I think there's a lot of situations where you can't do that or things will be significantly worse for you and it's not always survivable if you advocate for yourself that way. A lot of times that puts you in way more danger than just shutting up and like not necessarily letting it happen, but like figuring out a way to be okay with it in the moment.
You know, maybe there's like certain channels or streaming, series that we could create that are for survivors of this and survivors of that, or people that struggle with substance abuse. And, we're not having these conversations about alcohol, like alcohol's in every show, right? That could be triggering for alcoholics, but that's not necessarily their responsibility. It's the responsibility of the alcoholic to say, I'm gonna work my plan and I'm going to watch this show. And if they're drinking beer, I'm not going to run out to a bar. And so for a survivor, the best case scenario is have that safety and power ahead of time to know what you're going to sit down and watch.
There are not enough representations of survivorship when it comes to Black women, Black bodies, queer bodies, and also men. We're in this like really toxic manosphere culture. I have zero empathy for that at all. But I think one of the things that we're really finding is this epidemic of men's loneliness. One of the biggest temples of that is that the patriarchy and misogyny and systemized misogyny, and that men feel that they can't share themselves. I would love to see different bodies too. I'm really passionate about putting bigger bodies in front of the camera. We frequently desexualize people who aren't thin.
I was getting my ID photo taken at the DMV. For some reason, they had like this giant poster board about statistics about sexual assault. I started bawling my eyes out. And I was like looking at that and I was like, damn, I'm that. I'm part of that statistic. I'm that number that they're talking about. And it was really weird for me to like be quantified.
I have somebody in my life who genuinely does not believe that Epstein assaulted anybody, like thinks that this is just a major hoax of sorts. All I thought when I learned that was, I wonder if there is something that I could show them that would like make them believe it or understand it. Like maybe they don't have to believe that 1,000 people were harmed, but maybe we could just get them to believe that one person was harmed. Like how could we start that conversation or give them a piece of media that would help them believe and understand?
Nobody knows that this happened. My journey has just been like, let me move here and just try to start something new.
What it really looks like is waking up with nightmares, having daily panic attacks, not being able to eat, not being able to sleep, not being able to leave the house, not being able to be around people, not being able to just sit in a restaurant and have a meal or showering. It means like not ever wanting to have sex again with your partner. It means trying to find a good therapist that you can trust and, do the hard work to heal that and reprocess it.
We joke about oh, if my husband does the dishes, I'll let him have sex with me. The way that we talk about stuff like that, I think is insane. I think it's so insane. But it's so normalized to be if then, I will let you have sex with me, which is very, very different from an enthusiastic and reversible yes. It's currency, and I don't think that that's a healthy dynamic at all. And there's a lot to be said in the realm of weaponized incompetence and the way that we treat men and whatever. But I think that that's such a crazy thing that we've normalized. You start thinking about yourself in that way, and you're just okay, well, she did X, Y, and Z, which means that I have to let her do that, regardless of whether or not that's something that I am comfortable with or I want to do. She drove me to the grocery store and she cooked dinner tonight, so okay, if that's what she wants, then I can make myself okay with it.
I was working on a story one time and it was about people taking like this pledge to be accessible, like having their conferences and stuff be accessible. Talking to the CEO and he was like, we don't want to get it wrong. And so a lot of times like that holds up progress because people are afraid to make a mistake.
I'm attached to direct a film that is a sexual assault revenge Western about two sisters who end up burying the body of one of their husbands.
I think what would have helped me would have been seeing more women be independent and happy. Being Black and in the media. Oh, well, she got this nice job and she got a great car, but like she ain't got no man, so she's obviously unhappy. Every single time I have seen Black women in the media portrayed, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, that was the mantra. I want to see more stories of women, particularly Black women, being not in relationships and being happy.
I am writing a film and have been writing a film for years about my own experience. It's about the gray area of sexual assault and the gray area of forgiveness. I'm really interested now, I think, as I've evolved as a person in exploring what forgiveness looks like and what acceptance looks like. And so I'm working on a film right now about a woman who was sexually assaulted in college and is going to her 10-year reunion and ends up hunting down the guy who assaulted her in college before the reunion. And she has this big grand plan to like ruin his life. And then she finds out that he's married with children. It's all about this like, what do we do at what cost? And I think the reason why it's taken me so long to write it is because I have no idea how I'm gonna end it, because it is such a complicated question. And it's based on my own experience of like seeing, my own assailant from college, living a really successful life and getting married and having kids and being like, does this person deserve me blowing up his entire life? Maybe yes, but is that the right thing to do? Because then I subsequently blow up the lives of now several other people. And does this person feel shame? Does this person even remember it?
To be very clear, with 6-year-old Katherine, there was nothing you did or could have done. The onus for the assault was completely on them. If I'd known that, then I would have reported. Then I might have had a chance at justice or closure. I wouldn't have carried it with me that way for all those years, for 10 years before I ever said anything. There was so much shame, just a lifetime of shame that I had. And I would tell her there was nothing you did, you didn't deserve it. Nothing.
Living with the reel of thoughts, repetition of thinking about the assault or going through one specific moment in your assault, you can start to feel crazy, holy cow, am I the only one that thinks about it this much? To learn that I am not alone has been incredible.
I did cognitive behavioral therapy, but every Thursday or so there'd be art classes for people who've gone through sexual assault. And I remember being so shocked because I was the youngest person in there. There's women, in their 60s to 80s sitting next to me being like, yeah, I just went through this for the first time in my life. I didn't think that sexual assault could happen to me again. It's I thought it was a one-time only. Sometimes in movies and TV shows, it's a one-time scene. And I'm like, not only is it a lot of women go through this, they also go through it a lot more times than once throughout their entire life. I have been through sexual assault again since I was 17.
People will write in their stories to us, that's a big part of what we do. Reading just the number of stories and seeing the patterns and the similarities between everyone, once again, it has re-emphasized that I'm not alone. They are not alone. And I can tell people that they are not alone because I literally get hundreds of messages and emails of people saying things that are so similar to other people's experiences.
I'm just trying to forgive. That's the hardest thing. And understanding it's not my fault. Not blaming yourself. You did it. Nothing. There's nothing you could have done. And knowing that is so important. I wish I could tell myself that a year ago.
I'm gonna use white men as our gold standard because they have the most representation and they get to be whoever. There is every single type of white man under the sun on TV and on stage and everywhere. No one is confusing what is happening between two white men as because of their whiteness. It's just because they're people and their whiteness is separate. I don't think that same story happens when it's like people of color. I don't think that same thing happens when it's queer people or trans people. I think we blame poor character traits on their skin color or gender identity or sexuality, which really just speaks to the fact that we don't have enough representation for it to be neutral. So step one is having enough representation. But I would love to get to a spot where we can tell stories about abuse within queer relationships or POC relationships or any iteration of that. And it's not because they're queer and it's not because they're Black, it's because they're a shitty person who happens to be queer or happens to be Black.
It is like a very uncomfortable thing. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's taboo. It's, all the things, but that people don't like to address. But it's such a part of our culture. It's such a part of our culture. Ways that we just don't even think about it. And me as a mom, I have a lot of conversations with my son, being very clear around consent and how he understands it.
We can exercise revenge and beat the crap out of people all we want. What happens when that person is simply living their lives now? I think that is an experience that a lot of people, especially people my age, who have been through these things when they were younger, are going through. Who deserves forgiveness and who deserves to be happy?
I was pursuing criminal charges against my perpetrator. I, for about 2 years, thought, okay, if he goes to prison, everything is gonna be okay. I just need to make it to this trial date because then he will go to prison and everything will be fine and this chapter of my life will be closed and I can move on. That's not how it works. Justice being served can be beneficial to your healing, but it does not remove harm. Seeing him be put in handcuffs and taken away made me think, oh shit, this is still very much here. He still harmed me and there are still many pieces that I need to put back together.
I was getting fireworks with my family when I get tapped on by someone who works at the fireworks store. And they're oh, my coworker is a really big fan of yours. Do you mind going up to them? And I was sure, yeah. So I went up to her and she was bawling her eyes out. That's usually not the reaction to meeting me. I could immediately sense that something bigger was going on. And she pulls up her wrist and shows me this Medusa tattoo. If you don't know, Medusa is a representation for a lot of women of sexual assault. And she's when you talked about sexual assault, it completely changed my life and was one of the reasons that I got this tattoo. And I got so emotional. She's this tattoo has really saved me. You could just see how strong this woman was. And that'll always stay with me. I've had so many instances in my life through DMs or interactions online where people I've never even met in my life where I know I made a difference in them and I don't even know them.
Making peace with the lack of closure. You won't get a sorry, you won't get a reparation, you won't nothing. You just get the harm, have a life. Have a good day. And not just from the people who have, not just from the perpetrators, who I've experienced the harm from, also from my family. I won't ever be able to talk about my sexual assault with my dad, with my mom.
How do I just feel whole again? Healing, at least in my experience after sexual assault, is not about going back to who I was before. I don't believe that version of me is so far away. I don't even really remember who she was.
I hate the phrase, everything happens for a reason. What happened to me shouldn't happen to anybody. And no, I wouldn't wish what happened to me on my worst enemy. And if I could do it again, 100% I would love to not have had those things happen to me. They created a different course of life that I'm so proud to be where I am. But they did make life harder. It did make my life harder. But I think the beautiful thing for me is the acceptance of that. I am a victim and I'm a survivor, and both things are true. And I don't exist in this place of my life is awful because of this thing, but I do exist in this place of my life is different because of this thing. And I think that healing for me is an acceptance that that thing is very, very real. And that thing impacts me every day in ways that maybe I don't realize all the time. I do a lot of EMDR therapy. That thing, because of who I've developed to be, will never happen to me again.
I am more than my story, but my story is more than me. That's something that I've been repeating, like a mantra almost. But like in this weird way, I kind of live in this reality where I'm like, sure, yeah, I'm making things, but why would anyone listen to anything that I have to say? It's kind of like hitting me that like, this is so much more than me. I just really hope this helps somebody, because I think it would have helped me. What would I have needed to hear? And, you know, I was kind of thinking of that in like a past tense kind of thing. It's kind of been like what I need to hear right now. Like from when I started this project, I feel like a completely different person. Me, a couple of months ago, I was so angry. I was so sad for years. I felt like this cloud, like that followed me everywhere. My head was not a nice place to live. And then now, like it went away. Like talking about it and putting a name to what I've been through, being brave enough to call it abuse, to call it assault. Like, it's gone. Like, and I'm not saying I don't still, you know, deal with like PTSD. I certainly don't want to have sex anytime soon. I feel like I can breathe again for the first time in like 4 years. A lot of like my family members, I'll like give them a call and I'll just be chatting with them and they'll say, you know, what's going on with you? You sound happy. Like, what's going on? You just sound lighter. For the first time in a long time. And I felt it. I was lighter.
I still thought I was gonna fall a little bit. I still do sometimes. And eventually, maybe one day I'll believe it. But for now, I'm like, yeah, I could have done this. But it's like, we're here now.
Somebody made a comment around like what maybe like one of my siblings were wearing. I was like, it doesn't matter like what you're wearing. And I was assaulted. I had like conditioner in my hair and I had my pajamas on. I was in my dorm room. My dad was like, don't talk about that with him. I'm like, and every time I brought it up since, he's like, I don't want to think about you, you know, having been assaulted. I was like, I was raped when I was 6. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I don't want to talk about it. I'll never be able to have that conversation with him. I hope that I will, but more than likely I won't.
When I used to think about my sexual assault, it would literally take up every nook and cranny in my mind, and I would end up like doing push-ups on my floor because I was so mad, and then be like crying face first on the floor, and it would like take over my whole day. And now for me, when I think specifically about my sexual assault, it's more of a passing thought. It's not necessarily, like some days it will take over everything, but most days it is like a passing thought and I can continue on throughout my day.
Healing for me looks like a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, you know, monitored isolation is the term I'm going to use, to where it's like I don't want to be so alone that I'm not in community with people around me, but taking enough time to be on my own, to reflect, to go over the things that I can change, and accepting the things that are just etched in stone and just learning to let go of them. Also reaching out to people that have not gotten to that point yet and be like, hey, don't give up yet. You are so close. You're so close to finding yourself again, because I ended up in an abusive relationship with a man back in 2017. And when I finally got away from him, I didn't recognize myself. And I have always been somebody that, even in the midst of turmoil and BS, I always had this rudimentary understanding of who I was as a person, and I didn't. For the first time in my life, I had no idea who I was. So piece by piece, I had to start finding myself. I had to start, again, laying blame with the people that it belonged to, and not carrying more than I needed, because the world already expects me to carry so much because I'm a Black woman in this country. And any chance that I get to lighten my load, I have to. For my own sanity, for my own sake of choosing me, I have to let that go.
Being able to see like an abusive lesbian relationship would have been an entire game changer for me. I feel like I need to find a 1-for-1 to justify what is happening, or to like, I'm not crazy, here's a concrete thing that's like, no, see, like this is what happened to me and that's what's happening to that character. Okay, this isn't me overreacting, this is like a genuine issue. So I would love to be able to see like emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse portrayed in queer dynamics that doesn't reflect poorly on them because they're queer.
And healing for me is the ability to pay it forward and say to young girls like you, right, young women, there's a beautiful life ahead of you that's meaningful and wonderful, maybe with a couple extra stones, but it's there. And that you have the power to talk about these things, and you have the power to fight these things.
My mom blamed herself, and she was like, I'm not mad with you, I just, like, you didn't tell me. I was like, I didn't know how. I'd heard how you talk about other things, and I can't talk about it with her. Until like I saw like Tarana Burke like talking about the Me Too movement, or other, just like seeing it in like TV and mentioned in different places, I wouldn't be where I was, as I probably wouldn't be alive. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We all get so nervous about talking about these things in the exact right way. One of our phrases at What They Don't Say is consent is hot. I like the term consent is hot because if you bring it up, that's like an easy entrance. Oh, what do you think about this term consent is hot? Like, do you like it? Does it make you uncomfortable? And like, that's not even saying, do you think rape is bad? Like like that's a really different conversation, but like, I just would love to see more people be willing to start a conversation.
There's so much of a difference that you can make by like talking about what you went through. And it doesn't always have to be in a TV show, and it doesn't always have to be in a movie, and it could just be online talking about it. It's just what I've done. I just want to continue to be an advocate for it.
David Cho, the painter, like he was telling a story about like how he was like at the Blockbuster and there's like a porno section, right? He like snuck back there. He's like 60. He snuck back there, and then, okay, what are you doing? He like stole it and ran out the store and like sprinted home. The only VHS player is like in their living room. So his parents are like eating dinner, and then like he hears them coming, so he has to like eject it, and like that used to be how hard it was to obtain this kind of stuff. But now, I just go on my phone. I can watch porn and relapse just like that. Even if I'm just walking down the street. I mean, even here, some of this is like storage for like a showgirl like thing. And if I was weak enough, then like that would get me.
You know, at the start of this, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know if talking about it makes it any better. I know now. Your life is still different. You can't go back. You can't become the person that never got assaulted or was never abused.
I think healing for me is acceptance of the thing, but not acceptance that the thing in any way was okay. I forgive the circumstances in which led to what happened to me, but I don't forgive the person for doing the thing, and I don't forgive society for creating a world in which that was okay, and a world in which I didn't feel safe to report, and a world in which I spent over a year going, did that actually happen? But I'm not bitter, I'm angry.
Like, one of the questions I asked was, like, somebody came and told you they were sexually assaulted, would you know what to say? Some people are like, no, I don't know. Like, it makes them uncomfortable because they don't know. Don't let not knowing how to support somebody stop you from doing it. Ask the question to educate. Also, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, that colors the rest of their healing. Not that it's much personal, but like it will color it. Like, if you say, oh, too much for me, I'm gonna leave, probably gonna be the reason they don't tell like anyone else, that they don't report it. They won't ask questions. They won't unlearn certain things. They'll never get to the point where they can, oh, this wasn't my fault. Or like, I don't have to be ashamed about it. Or just because I had an erection or I was aroused doesn't mean that I consented it and I wanted it.
If anybody wants to follow What They Don't Say on socials, or if anybody wants like a Consent is Hot merchandise item, we have hoodies, shirts, and hats right now, and we're expanding beyond that. You can go to whattheydon'tsay.com And all of our socials are there. Our socials are also at What They Don't Say official. Give us a follow and, I don't know, send me a message. That works too.
If we don't start with these young men, when they turn into men, what are we unleashing on our society?
It's uncomfortable. People don't really want to hear it. So are tampons, but we still use them. So no matter who you are, like a friend or partner or whatever, it doesn't have to be perfect for you to be community to people, and you can learn, and everybody should learn.
I went to a film festival the other day. A young girl asked me a question about being a filmmaker, and I said, it's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's you know, it's about being the most in touch with who you are. And this girl was like crying. That's healing. Like being able to inspire my students, being able to talk about, encourage them outside of this topic to live fully in who they are. That's healing.
There's always hope, right? I believe I've gotten my own healing. I've seen so many miracles. I see it every day in my practice, and so that's what continuously feeds my hope.
Child-on-child sexual assault, we don't talk about that at all. And it took a decade before I was like, oh, there's a word for that. It's such a confusing and like jarring experience. There's the feeling of like that person didn't know what they were doing either. And they were very likely also a victim of something going on. So there's like this weird gray area of like, I don't know how I'm allowed to feel about this.
Stop playing sexual assault for jokes and laughs. It's not funny. It's never funny. I don't care who it's happening to. And don't get me wrong, I love dark humor, okay? There's other ways to be dark. Making fun of somebody losing their bodily autonomy to another motherfucker is not funny. And if you think it is, you're lazy, you should not be doing media. Fight me.
My pride and joy since last June was, coming out with the book, Unbroken, A Survivor's Journey After Sexual Assault. And so now I'm doing a monthly book club to kind of get people to, join and talk about it and get the support that they need. I love what I do. I feel like this is what I was meant to do, and just to always be providing hope for people. That's always my message, is you can heal from this. Feels like you can't. You feel totally broken, but you can absolutely heal from it.
I think I'm required to say the corny, it gets better, but it genuinely does get better. What I'll say to you is you're not alone. What I would have said to younger me, because it's all she would have been able to hear, is you're not special. I think I absolutely needed to be slapped in the face with it, because I think that's the only way I can hear things. That's how my therapist talks to me, and so it helps. And you're gonna find other people, and you're gonna talk to other people, and you're not gonna be sitting alone with this forever, and you're okay.
I've never regretted ever talking about it.
The more we can talk about it, the more, survivors feel kind of validated and like they're not alone. And that's so important. So important.
Being in a beautiful, loving partnership has been the most healing thing. Learning to trust in that way has been incredible. Not that you need other people to do that, but there are so many good people out there. What I am so deeply proud of myself for is that I said, okay, I'm gonna take that and ante up and try to create an environment in which either that doesn't happen as much, or where other people feel safe to and empowered and emboldened to prevent those things from happening or talk to people about them. I like to think of I've been given a set of given circumstances in my own life, and I'm I get to decide how I use them now.
Grief comes in waves, and processing certainly comes in waves. I think sometimes it's I don't think about it for a week, and then I wake up one day and the weight of it is there, and you're oh fuck, I have to think about it today. Giving yourself the time and the effort to just be today's a grief day, today's the day we're dealing with it, so it's okay if I move a little slowly, it's okay if I need to cancel or reschedule something to just sit. That's okay.
How do I go, this happened and now I'm gonna make the world better? I don't think everybody has the privilege to do that, because it's really freaking hard, and I have a lot of privilege in terms of working with a lot of mental health experts and resources, and so the one thing I do know how to do is make art, and that's what I hope can help people who maybe do or don't have access.
Hi, I'm McLean, and I'm a survivor. I've learned so much about myself and about other survivors, how resilient they are, and my desire to create art that reflects what I've been through still exists. You don't have to do all this on your own. You are not an island. You're not alone. You are not alone. There are still so many things that we need to talk about that we're not talking about, as evidenced by this documentary. And I'm feeling really inspired. If I could say one thing to my younger self, don't let your worst days beat you. Some things are gonna happen that you're never gonna be able to change. It's gonna change you. And you can take what's happened to you and use it to help other people, but also still taking care of yourself. You don't have to make a movie or a documentary or a TV show or a social media website to create something good out of what happened to you. Sometimes there's no reason for terrible things to happen to us. But we don't have to let them beat us. These people have taken so much from me. I can't give them the satisfaction of taking my ambition too. Do what makes you happy. Don't let them take that from you. If that's creating, create. If that's watching movies, watch movies. Thinking about that script that I wrote, I don't think I'm gonna abandon it. I'm gonna keep creating. I've got some more stories to tell.